Yeah, of course we're impacted. I'm only about 45 minutes away from Gaza. And got all our children, nephews, all sorts of family and friends on the front lines. And, we all know people that were killed in this massacre and friends of people who were killed. And, the rest of the world isn't understanding if they don't wake up. This is coming to their town. I'm lonely for you now, girl, and I don't know what to do. I keep on traveling, then I know I'll make it through. But are you a little bit lonely? Yes, I know. Missing me too. Wherever you are in the world, girl, know I still love you. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Not know why we couldn't be.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Thank the Lord.
Good. Fantastic. So you had some kids at home, right?
Yeah, I got 5 kids, three teenagers still at home.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was out
Three.
playing with I got a mysterious last minute call to play with the grandkids today, so I was with the grandkids and I made it home. So sorry I couldn't get on it for the full
Don't
hour, but
don't worry about it. It's good.
okay.
Um, so three teenagers all at the same time?
Well, I mean, I got 5 kids. Two oldest are married, and I got 3 that are still at home.
Wow. That's a busy house. So you are in, where are you at? Israel?
I'm about my porch looks right out at Bethlehem. I'm about a 25-mile drive, 25-minute drive from Bethlehem. I'm in
That's
the mountains between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, on the
are
outskirts of a town called Beit Shemesh.
that's that's amazing. That's precious. So, where are you originally from, though?
Originally, I'm from between New Jersey and Connecticut. I spent 5 years. My music career started. The record company brought me into Atlantic Records, brought me into Manhattan. I was working 5 years, singer songwriter, and I met some mystic that was this mystic guy who was playing in. We played a show in Manhattan. He said, "I got to come play with him in Israel." I said, "Israel? That's bombs and desert. I'm not going to Israel." This is 1994. I didn't really know too much
Right.
about it. And he said, "Just come one time." And I just fell in love with the Holy Land, and been going on tour and just decided to raise my family here. And the rest is
So
history.
that's that's amazing. So, is your wife from there, or is she from?
Yeah, my wife's originally from Israel. Her family's Moroccan. Her parents came from Morocco in the 50s.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
she's Moroccan, and we're married 28 years. I met her about a
Wow.
year or so after I got here.
That's incredible. Yeah. When I think of Israel, I mean, I think of bombs and desert. So, is it not? Is that a misconception that Americans have? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's like the news. It's like my friends when I told them I'm going to, on tour. Every time I tell them I'm going on tour in America, they're like,
Mhm.
"No, don't you see the mass shootings? It's all over. You gotta, you gotta bring a
Right.
a, a straight, some, what they call a vest."
Hmm.
So the news is always showing us things that sometimes they're true, but it's not. It's obviously it's the outcast story. It's not the whole story. So, Israel's very peaceful, and then there are spots where you have to know what you're doing. If you come on a tour in Israel, a lot of Christians come on tours. They have tour guides that know, you know, 99% of the time everything's fine. We're going to go now into an area where you have to know, and then you have every few years you have a few rockets fall from Gaza, and you have to go into the bomb shelter with your kids, which isn't so pleasant. but it's a beautiful country with, it's about the size of New Jersey. People usually don't, I just say, because I had no idea. People think it's like huge. Like, why don't you just divide it up? It must be this huge piece of land.
Right.
But it's the
But
size of
it's
New
not.
Jersey. It's very
Right.
small.
So it's not. So what is a typical day like? And how is it different than America? Like,
It's not really different, I would say. The only thing that really hit me when I came here that really made me decide that I wanted to come here, as I think, Israel has a lot of different types of populations, but I would say on the whole, it's extremely family oriented still.
okay.
Even
Yeah.
if people are secular or whatever religion, it just has this vibe where things still rotate around the family.
Yeah. I love that. I
Yeah,
love that.
so I felt that, and it's a very young country, so there's a lot of you feel there's a young spirit. It's growing and exciting. It feels like the center of the world, and it's very complicated. It's challenging. It's a very complicated. The whole thing is complicated. Just like if anything else in life is complicated, Israel is so much more complicated.
Right? Well, you make it sound pretty appealing. I might
I
have
mean, the
to
people are.
I might have to come on
We call
over.
it we.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Israeli people, we call them. They're called a sabris. A sabris is a cactus.
Okay.
So I kind of like, I play a lot of down in Texas. I got a lot of buddies in Texas. So I kind of say it's like Texas. Sometimes Texas people on the outside, that might seem a little hard. When they get to
Right.
know them, they're really like very warm-hearted and like biggest heart. So Israelis, they've been through a lot. So on the
Yeah.
outside, they might be a little prickly, but they're very warm and helpful. And that's, I mean, whenever we're generalizing, we're going to get into trouble. But that's
Right.
my general opinion.
Right. Okay. Well, that sounds perfect. And I did a podcast with a woman from France
Right.
last week. She lives in Paris, and she's got me wanting to move there. Now you've got me wanting to move to Israel. So I'm just I'm just a gypsy in my heart. I'm just, happy everywhere. I want to see. I love all people and all lands. I think every
That's it.
place has beauty and has something to offer and has something that's unique and special just to that place. That's how I mean,
That's
so.
exactly it. That's exactly it.
So tell me about your music. You write your own songs. I've listened to some of your music. I'm pretty blown away by your talent.
Thank you so much. Well, I don't. I just try to be a vessel for whatever they want to put in my cup, whatever the Lord wants to send. So, you know, um, I've been doing a lot of songwriting. My dad, when I was 14, took me to see Stevie Ray Vaughan play. I was young, and so from then I knew I wanted to be on the stage and write songs and play guitar and studied music at Skidmore College. I got a degree in music, but then I have been pretty much hitting the road for, believe it or not, it's over about 40 years. I'm on
Wow.
the stage. And
That's cool though.
yeah, I've been done a lot of traveling around the world, mostly touring in America. I did 2 tours in Russia, which was pretty interesting. A
Yeah.
few years back, before they went into Georgia, before they invaded Georgia, the ruble fell, so that stopped that. But traveled Europe and I do a lot of touring, and just try to write songs. My main thing has been last 2 years just trying to write. I guess the 20 years last year since the first Lazer Lloyd album was written, where I had a song there called "We're All God's Children." I'm just trying to bring a conversation of people that just to help people build the bridge, be a bridge builder, and keep open dialogue. I have some
Yeah.
songs in America that hit the I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Um, there was a song "America" that I wrote, and Backstreets. They're just talking about giving, trying to keep open dialogue, see things a little bit differently, and so that's what I'm trying to do with the music,
Right.
and trying to give a
I,
general spiritual message, a spiritual message that all people can relate to, universally spiritual,
universally spirit. Okay. Um,
without it feeling preachy or feeling it too religious. My whole thing is that
right.
it's best to be in front of someone and let them feel the love and feel the essence with the music. Let them experience that. Don't get too preachy and into details. Just try to show that love and common respect, and that's what I've been doing, you know.
Oh, I think you just hit the nail on the head when you said common respect. I feel like I can only speak for American churches because I haven't been to other countries, but a lot of times, and this is not like you said, when you get into generalization, you get into trouble, but a general rule seems like over here, and I've been all over the country and raised in churches, a lot of times Christians don't show common respect to other people or church people. And then if you don't show them respect and then you turn around and try to push your beliefs off on that person, what makes them want to even, come around? They don't want to know what you have or know anything about your faith because you didn't show them that basic respect from the beginning. And I think that's a big deal.
I mean, if Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is in the heart, is in you, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That means you have to see every human, you have to see the kingdom of heaven is in them. So
Right.
if you're disrespecting them, you're disrespecting the kingdom of heaven. And I would say that my experience with church people, we're just generalizing, is, they have problems. I remember I took this. Yeah, I always like to speak to people on the planes. I had this pastor from Fort Worth, Texas.
Right.
He was a Baptist preacher telling me he was all upset because his niece and nephew who grew up secular in Texas, we used to come to him. They won't speak to him now because they joined a certain church. Doesn't matter the name. That now they said, I'm not going to go to heaven because I'm not part of their church, and so they're not taught not to speak to me because I'm a different type of Christian. So I think the problem is not even outside of one's religion; it's even with inside. And
Right.
so that's just I tell people, listen, when we start with dividing the whole concept in Israel, you feel the oneness that God is one. Now, when God is one, you have to really learn how to turn that from knowing to being,
Right.
from knowing to reading that, to have that be a part of the way you look at things. So as soon as we don't understand that it is all one, then the divisions they'll never end, and then you just get a church with. I tell people, I said you could get 10. I got friends that they'll be Catholics or Lutherans, whatever. They'll complain about. I said, let me just ask you. I got preachers telling me all the time that they have fights within their own church with people who are the
Yeah.
same exact thing. So we don't
Yeah.
have to go looking any further to fix the
Right.
world. We got to fix ourselves.
Right there. Right. Absolutely. Too much
Yeah,
division. Yeah, I think
yeah.
so too. And I think I try to do love too. And, on the podcast, somebody said, well, what is your call? What do you feel like your call is? And I think, that's such a general term that gets misused in church. I'm called to preach, or I'm called to do this, or called to do that. And I thought about it and I said, I think that we're called to love. That's what Jesus said. Right. I don't know that. I
That's
mean,
right.
some people are preachers and some are teachers and some are singers and musicians and some are painters, but essentially we're all called to love. There's two commandments: love God, love people. And we've spoke on this a couple of times on the podcast. Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. A big part of the problem in the world is people are actually, in fact, loving their neighbor as themselves because they don't love themselves. So they are giving you the love they would give themselves. And that has turned into a problem. They are in fact treating you the way they're talking to you the way they self-talk. And that's what they're doing. And so,
I tell a lot of people that I deal with so many of my friends in the Bible Belt in Appalachia,
mhm,
lost so many to suicide and addiction. And I've been arguing with pastors for a long time. I said, if anyone who knows any basic psychology, it's very damaging when we teach. I don't think that Jesus was helping the simple people by teaching them that they're born sinners.
right,
He was teaching them to feel God, experiencing God, because he knew that there's the state that they were in, that they were far, they were lost. And so I don't think he was bringing it up to them. He wasn't going to the Galilee and saying, listen, you're born sinners. Listen, I don't think that's what he was doing. I think he was showing love, and he was, through his words and his being, he was giving them an awakening, and that was causing them to love themselves, love him, and feeling God.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think we have to switch things around. We're all a lost generation. So we
Right.
have to stop telling people that they're born sinners. We have to start telling them you're born with the kingdom of heaven in your heart.
I love
That's,
that.
think of how much love that means, that you're
Right.
born with the kingdom of heaven in your heart. So if we start telling people that, then they'll be able to love themselves and love others. But if you're taught that you're a born sinner and you're feeling all guilty, I remember I saw all my friends that said, they're guilty, they did this and that. And even though they say, I put a cross on, I'm a believer, I'll be forgiven, it doesn't work for them. It's so ingrained to them that they're a born sinner. And so then when they come to look at their friend, they say, well, instead of thinking he has the kingdom of God in his heart, they say, oh, he's a born sinner too.
Right.
So it's and maybe so those two things that Jesus said, love thy God with all your heart, with all your soul as the first, and love thy neighbor as thy second. I always tell people, when you have children, it's very clear that actually you have to switch the order around. It's like if I go out to the playground, like I was in the kids with the playground today, if I see some parent there or some child all of a sudden helps my kid on the swing or something, that really it moves me more than if someone comes tries to help me. So I
Yes.
always tell people we have to love who the beloved loves, and
Oh,
God
that's good.
loves his creation. So if you want to love God, first you have to love who God loves. And that's how you really love God. And if we switch, because what happens, I tell people for thousands of years, we've telling people first love God with all thy heart and then love thy neighbor. But why hasn't it been working? Because we
Right.
say, okay, yeah, but those people don't really love the right God.
Right.
They're not like me. So people don't usually get to the second step. They have all these things that come in between it because they're lost into, well, I don't know if they're that religion, or maybe they're not my type of church. So by the time maybe he's not really loving God, or I have to love God. Because I have to love God so much, I have to learn to hate. Like, David hated the evil. So I have to also be careful because maybe they're evil, so I shouldn't love. But then we have
Right.
to love. Jesus was loving without judgment. He was openly loving without judging. So if we start with loving who every human, every creation that's has that divine spark in it, it's loved as long as it's here. Even someone's a huge sinner. Like people
Right.
say, why was Jesus hanging out with the sinners, the taxpayers, the lawyers, the prostitutes? Why was he with them? Because he saw the spark of God was never lost. He didn't give up on them, and he gave
Right.
them the love. So that's what we have to do. We have to first turn it around. Love thy neighbor, because the kingdom of God is in there, and that's how you love God with all your heart and all your soul.
You're really changing my life right now.
Mm.
that's
Well,
that's
it must be that your spirit is speaking. We're speaking same
yeah.
same level. Yeah.
I'm from Appalachia. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. And to
Which town?
say
Which town?
Lewis County. You know where Lewis County's at?
Oh yeah, sure. I was just in Corbin
Yeah, okay,
a little while
that's
back.
south. Yeah,
That's
I
I
love
was in
Corbin.
Paducah. I wrote one of my good songs. I wrote in Paducah, Kentucky.
Paducah's
There.
clear on the other side
Yeah,
of
yeah.
yeah.
So Kentucky. Well, give me the towns over there. What's in Eastern? Is that Louisville? No.
No, that's western. Okay, so Eastern Kentucky, Betaville, Pikeville, Ashland,
All right, right,
Grayson,
right, 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 right,
Prestonsburg, Eastern.
right,
And so
right,
east of
right,
Lexington's kind of in the middle. So anything east of there.
right. So yeah, on the West Virginia, North
On
Carolina border.
The West Virginia, yeah, the West Virginia border. I grew up.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
So, and when you said, they teach in Appalachia, you're a born sinner, man, that's just the beginning. They teach you not only that you're a born sinner, but that you are going to hell. Everything you do, and I kind of make light of it now and laugh about it because comedy's my defense mechanism. But my grandparents, if you watched a movie that was rated PG-13, straight to hell. If you wore a pair of shorts, straight to hell. Like, get your ticket punched because you're board the train, long black train, because you're heading out. No matter what you did, if you said a curse word, straight to hell. If you said my grandparents, you could say, well, crap. Oh, you need to wash your mouth out with soap. You're going to hell. So you kind of grow up in this, uh, it's a society of just pure condemnation and judgment. And that's just from a basic Christian standpoint. Then you have these Appalachian parents who will tell you, you're stupid and you're worthless. You're getting on my nerves. You're a nuisance. Why don't you go play in the street? And that's how they talk to children. That's how I was talked to, and everybody I know. Go play in the street. And that with the insinuation of maybe you'll get run over and you won't be a nuisance to me anymore. And that's just how Appalachian parents still to this day talk to their children and treat their children. And so then you have these adults like me and people my age, especially Gen Xers are real strong, are all on drugs. They're all on heroin because you do not have the tools. You have all this hurt, all this trauma, all this negative self-talk, and you do not have the tools to deal with that. Thank God I am different and got out of there, and God has brought good people into my life to give me the tools. And even I still struggle with feeling worthless every single day of my life. When people tell me that you're not, and my son will say you're not, and my friends, and you're not worthless, and you're amazing, and you're this and you're that, but it doesn't matter. When you grow up,
The scars on a child are so damaging. The scars on a
because
child.
your little brain wires itself around in a different way. So my brain and children in Appalachia, our brains did not get to develop in a healthy way. It developed in a survival way. And in the drug epidemic in Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia, is people in the rest of the country cannot believe it. And there's, unless you're over there, but unless you grow
I
up, you
believe
don't
it.
know
I've seen
why.
it. I lost so many friends that I don't, this new Oliver Anthony, right? You heard the
Yeah.
singer.
Yeah.
So when that first song came out, Richmond, north of
North of
Richmond.
Richmond. Mm-hmm.
Now I really like the guy and I really like the song, but I was telling people there's a problem with it, and people didn't like what I told them until they heard him give an interview on Joe Rogan. I'll tell you what happened. He was complaining that he was, life was run down, and he got into alcohol, and he was just drinking and was depressed and suicidal. And the song is blaming politicians,
Yeah.
the rich men north of Richmond, if you heard the words. And he got
Yeah.
a whole following this. I was telling people, listen, you're not going to fix your life if you're going to blame others. I said, he's from Appalachia. He
Mm-hmm.
should really be telling people, instead of
Yeah.
blaming the politicians north of Richmond, what about analyzing the way the church has taught all of the people? So people
Yeah.
got really upset with me. But then when he got on the Joe Rogan podcast, he said, Joe, I grew up in Appalachia and I didn't like anything to do with the church because for me, it was just theatrics and politics, and I just didn't like anything.
Yeah.
And so Joe said, well, what happened? He said, well, as I grew up, he says, then I received the Bible again without my ego. After I was just suicidal and all messed up, I just
Yeah.
dropped my ego. But he had to get to that point. But what I wanted him to tell people was, we know that there's a problem in Appalachia and
Yeah.
the Bible Belt. Now, there are also, as we know, there's a lot of good things going there that the rest of the
Yeah.
world needs. I was in
Yeah.
Nashville at this hotel on my way out the first time I went to play in Tulsa. And it was a little boy. There was a young guy working at the hotel there, I remember. And I like to speak to everybody. And I asked him, how's it going? Because he looked a little out of place.
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's going pretty good. He says, he says, I came out of the holler about 4 months ago.
Holler.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that expression. I didn't even know the expression. You know what I'm
I
saying?
grew up in a holler. Yeah.
So I said, what is that? He said, well, I grew up in this valley in Appalachia. And I said, oh, I said, how's it going? He says, well, I got to tell you, they told me a lot of things that don't add up when you got out of there.
That's
And
perfect.
but he told me, but he said, but now Nashville's kind of weird. He says, I think there'd be a few people that it would do them good a few months in the holler.
That's right.
So, so we always have to remember that there I've met all sorts of people, all religions, all ways. There's always a good way to do something, and there's always a bad way. And even in those areas where there's people not doing it right, there is a
Right.
lot of good things that are happening
Yeah.
that we have to remember. So I like to go and meet those people. And when you meet the good ones in the holler, in the Bible Belt, you really meet some good ones. And
Yeah.
when they're a little more open minded,
Yeah.
when they've gotten a little more around the world,
Yeah.
and when they realize that telling that kids and all that scare stuff,
Yeah.
that stuff. When you read the New Testament, I really don't like that stuff. I don't think that's what we
No.
should be focusing on. That's the Dark Ages. That's why we left Europe.
Right.
I think Jesus of America is something different.
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
we brought Jesus out of the dark.
Right. Right. No, I
And
completely agree. Yeah.
it just
And you're,
takes a while for people to change gears, but people like you is very important
yeah.
speaking up. I mean, I got so many people I know that said, Lazer, man, I cannot go near a church. I just have
It,
visions of these people with flipping
yeah.
out on the floor, speaking tongues and all this weird stuff, that freaked them out when they were young. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, well, some of it's crazy. I mean, I have actually been in churches that I've walked out of because I thought, well, look, and I'm real non-judgmental about people worshiping however they want to worship. I always tell people, if you put the offering plate on your head and run around in circles, if God tells you to, then you better do it. But you better make sure that God told you to first. Don't just do it because you feel like doing it and because you are drawing attention to yourself. But I was in a church once where people were rolling around and smacking themselves and flopping like fish out of water and knocking chairs over. And I thought, not only is this not glorifying God, but this is actually making a mockery. And He is a holy God. And I had to walk out. I thought, I can't even, I wasn't a part of it. I had went, and the thing was, I rode with somebody and I did not have a way home because she didn't want to leave. And I walked out and started walking. I just thought, well, I'm just not staying, even if I don't have a ride home. And then she left and stopped and picked me up. But,
That's why
you know,
you have to really follow your heart, and
yeah,
our
it's
surroundings are really hard because I think so many people, they really feel that what's being taught in their surroundings isn't exactly right. Like
right,
I teach to a lot of people that, listen, there's a lot where we all are. There's a lot of fruit mixed with the peel,
yeah,
and a lot of us are. Listen, it is hard for people. What do you say to a person when everyone they grow up around is like this and their family? It's hard for them to say, hey, I think what the preacher said today, that's the opposite of what Jesus was preaching. I try to tell people,
right,
you got to remember a few hundred years not so long ago, we had preachers telling people, this is totally okay that black people should be slaves and women shouldn't vote. I mean,
right,
you can look up sermons. So I said, you have to be careful,
to be
and you
careful.
have to be brave like Jesus to go against the grain. You
Yeah,
have to be brave. Now, we don't all have to start flipping over the tables of the tabernacle because because you have to have big shoulders for that. So I always tell people, don't flip over the tables in the tabernacle. Just flip over your own table, your own ego, we all got stuff to fix before we have to start flip. So I tell them, you don't have to start telling everyone in your family that they're wacky and all your arguing with everybody in the church. You can be a better example, and maybe you slowly have to find yourself a different way, but
Yeah.
you don't have to do it with a lot of noise and a lot of those things. And you said something that's very important, which I tell people all the time. If God told you to put something plate on your head and start swimming like a fish on the flopping around the floor, go for it.
Go
But
for it.
I don't know. So
I know
recently
you
they had
make
this
sure.
interview with they had an interview with the guy who was Bob Dylan had some famous Nashville recordings. First time he went down to Nashville.
Mhm.
Now there's all sorts of stories that people tell about. This was like the early 60s. There's all sorts of stories that people tell of what happened, that he came in, there was no song, and he just took out a piece of paper and the pen fell from the ceiling, and all of a sudden I mean, the stories that come out. So this one bass player that was there for the whole recording, he says, listen, I gotta tell you guys, over the years I was there for every second of those sessions. 60% of the stories that they're telling you, they just have they are just made up, because
Right.
it's Bob Dylan. So he said, if you want to find out the truth, you got to really be careful. So I always tell people,
Yeah.
don't feel that to be godly, you have to think that that every word of the King James translation or this translation, I'm saying, wait, how many
Yeah.
translations?
How
The
many trans?
kingdom, Jesus specifically told you that the kingdom of heaven is found in your heart. So
Right.
you have to use these teachings as a pointer, but the real teaching, you have to find it in your heart, because you're going to have 10 preachers telling you 10 different things about what one word means.
Right. Yeah, they do.
I mean,
Yeah.
look what happens before the elections. I've seen two different preachers telling you why to vote for this one isn't, completely different interpretations of something in the Bible using the same
Right.
exact line. So
We gotta
there's
you gotta
no
be careful.
we got to be careful, and you
You
got
gotta
to
be
know.
careful.
So
Mm-hmm.
people always say, well, Lazer, what am I going to do? How am I going to know? I said, listen, if you add more love, as you said,
Yeah.
more humility, you can
Mm-hmm.
never make any mistakes. Make more
Yeah.
love, give more humility. You'll never make a mistake.
Well, and sometimes I think if you listen closely, you can hear God ask you to do things, but I don't think it will ever be put something on your head and swim like a fish. I think if God specifically asks you to do something, in my experience, it will always be something that benefits you or another person. It's always done out of love. Here's a story, and I don't know if I've ever told anybody. I was going to Lexington, Kentucky, and we were almost there, and there was a woman walking on the side of the road. And I just felt immediately something in my heart. Now, whether that's, people say, I heard God say, I didn't audibly hear a voice, but I just felt immediately, you're supposed to stop and pick that woman up. And I said to that voice, well, you're crazy. I don't pick up strangers walking on the side of the road, even if it's a woman, and she was a grown woman. She was probably 60 and there's maybe 50. No. And we were kind of close to the bad, maybe the eastern part of Lexington where, it's a little rougher. And again, the voice said, you need to stop and pick up that woman, turn around and go back and get her. And I pulled over the side of the road. My son was probably 15 or 16. He said, what are we doing? I said, we're going to go back and get that woman. And he said, are you crazy? I said, I don't know, but I had to. I went back and got her. The first thing she said to me, Lazer, she said, as soon as you passed, God said, there's your ride. I knew you were going to come back and get me. So that's an amazing thing. But you know what? That was done out of love. God loved her. She had lost the key to her apartment and didn't have a car, needed to get back before it was a long weekend, and she needed to get back before the manager left, or she was going to be locked out of her apartment all weekend. And she said she started praying, God, I've got 30 minutes to get to that apartment. I can't do it walking. And God
Wow.
said, you stop and get her. That's what he told me. You need to stop and get her. And
Wow.
so, sometimes you can, I think, hear that little, I had Renata Riley on an episode, and she's a phenomenal chef. She calls it the God molecule. Sometimes you can hear that little voice inside you, but it's generally something that's helpful and done out of love. It's not something that's just going to draw, in my experience, just to draw attention to you for no reason. It's not self-serving, right? That voice, God is not a self-serving God. That's not a self-serving thing.
Yeah, I always tell people Jesus was very high on doing things not so other people should see them or hear about them. It says in the book of Matthew very early on, one of his major things was he was criticizing and saying, listen, you're doing a lot of things so other people see what you're doing. So, it's tricky. We have to have community. And then at the other hand, I've always felt that the real holy people, they never make a lot of noise. They
Yeah.
they're also not looking for some experience by flopping around, They
Right.
said, listen, I'm not here to get something from God. I'm here to give. I'm here to give love. I don't need to have the light come shine and all of a sudden the heavens open. That's not
Right.
what I'm here to do.
Right.
I'm just in when the kingdom of God in heaven is within you, it's in you in a settled way.
Yeah,
So
I
those
like
those
that.
holy people that I meet, they just go about their things, not looking for some huge thing to happen. They're just giving love without making noise. They're just doing it without making noise. They don't have to show people and tell people about it. I'm saying there are some place and time for everything, and I think there's a lot of people who have saved their lives through some religious experience, and sometimes there are some services that are purposely made for people who are deep in the darkness to get some light
Right.
quickly. But I always tell people be careful, because I got a lot of my friends that wake up from these experiences or these things, and what comes easy sometimes goes easy.
Oh yeah.
And so sometimes they have a big fall. As I said, don't, slowly, sometimes it's good to get the light, slowly to make a change. And then sometimes there are people that need some immediate, quick medicine.
Inter like an intervention.
Yeah.
Right.
They
Right.
sometimes, so I don't make fun of that, because I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's never to
Right.
be used, but I don't think that's the main thing to be
Right.
used for everybody. It's like, a doctor, if you come to him with a chest cold, he doesn't say, oh, well, yesterday I just saved someone from cancer with chemotherapy, so I'm going to give you chemotherapy, because that's a heavy medicine in a specific instance where it also has its danger. And you have to know how to give that medicine. You can save someone's life with the chemotherapy. If you give it too strong, too hard, you can kill the person.
Right.
So a lot of
That's
these
that's a
pastors
great
have to
analogy.
a lot of the pastors have to understand that never tell people, well, this is the only way, this is the only thing to do, because
Mhm.
everybody's so different. Everybody has a different ailment and a different way. It just might be. I never try to mock anything. Sometimes people are, it's very delicate. How do you say to people who you think it's, in my eyes, looks like they're in a strange path.
Mhm.
But at that moment, that's working for that person.
Right.
So I always tell people you have to be careful. You have to plant seeds without breaking the cast. Sometimes people have put these weird casts on their arms, like if it's broken, a cast can be a good thing because your arm is broken, so it holds it in place. But some of these cultish, weird things, it's like a cast on your arm. If you don't take it off, your arm can never grow. You can never really get to use it again. But
Right.
at the same time, this is so it's very gentle how we explain to people that, wow, I don't think flipping like a fish on the floor or doing these wacky things is the
Right.
really what Jesus wanted. But at the same time,
Right.
if
Well,
we
it
if we if we it's very delicate, because sometimes people could just go back to their old ways. We don't know. Maybe yesterday someone was an addict, and today
right.
they're flop. Maybe for them it is better to flop around like a fish in the
Like a
church.
Well, and I feel like these people are obviously not the way I try to make my peace with it is I think, but I know a lot of these people and they're good people, right? They act a little out there sometimes in services, but they're good people. And I don't think these people don't go to church thinking, I'm going to go in here and make a mockery of God. They don't do that. They
No,
actually think in their heart, they actually think what they're doing is right. They are praising God the best way that they know how. And the only thing I can think about that is I think, um, God judges, man judge the actions. Like I was like, ooh, this is a little out there, but God judges the heart. And so God sees in that person's heart that they're not intentionally acting a fool. They really feel like this is I'm doing, and whatever they're giving, they're not ashamed. I can tell you that. They don't there's no shame in their game. They'll go right in there and hop
oh no,
around and they holler as loud as we laugh,
oh yeah,
bobby pins flying. They don't care. They love God and that's how they show it. And so you have to think, well, I mean, they're not intentionally they do the best they can. And I feel like most people in life are doing the best they can at every given moment.
yeah. It's there's the Sufi movement. The Sufis. The
No.
Sufis like the Sufis is the mystical break off of Islam.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
So yeah, they teach a lot of love and peace. If you go to like Boulder, Colorado, you have a big community. The Sufis, Rumi
Okay.
was a big mystical. All the mystical paths at the end they meet. So the Sufis they have this dance they call the whirling dervish. That to get all the thoughts, God. Their whole thing is God can only be felt beyond the mind ego experience, and so they whirl themselves into this dance where they totally lose thought, and for them that's how they are able to connect. So on the outside it looks really weird, it looks crazy
Right.
if you look up a Sufi dance,
I'll
but
have to
at the
do that.
same time they have some deep teachings. There's some
Yeah.
deep teaching to it. The same thing with these people are doing these flipping, getting out of
It's
ourselves. And
yeah.
it's like they ask in the Old Testament, how could the Israelites sleep the night before they're supposed to receive on Mount Sinai the Torah? How did they go to sleep? It says they went
Yeah.
to sleep. So so they were thinking, well, to get something from heaven, it can't be when I'm conscious in my body. It can probably only be in like some type of dream or deep thing. So so the Moses was teaching them, no, this is what it is. God wants there to be a joining between the heaven and earth. You're a human, you're made, so you don't have to have this out of body experience to receive God. You can have it while you're in your body. But a lot of these people when I asked them about the hollers and all this crazy dance and the tongues, many people feel that they're feeling something that's a truth that really the infinite can't be grasped by our intellect.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think
So a
I
lot of
agree.
people
I
are
agree with
trying to
that to
do.
an
Yeah,
extent.
we have to use all of our. If God gave us something, it's for the right reasons. The mind is a great. We all know that expression. The mind is a great servant. It's a terrible master.
Yeah.
So the mind as a servant is divine.
Yeah.
The mind as the master is our destruction. It's the
Yeah.
you know it's the evil inclination. So a lot of these people are trying to touch beyond their intellect something,
Mhm.
but we know that really silent, deep self reflection, looking into your mind is really the only thing that's going to build a secure vessel. Because, like a lot of my friends, they also are good people, have good intentions, but I've seen them do the flopping fish dance. And what happens is
Yeah.
they don't they don't really grow in a
Right.
stable way.
Right.
There's not, it's always like an always, if I don't get my fish dance this Sunday, I won't be able to function throughout the week. And we
Yes.
want to be able to function without getting the fish dance. You know what I'm saying? We want to slowly be able
Yes.
to look inside ourselves in a calm manner, wherever we are, feeling that kingdom of heaven within me. learning how to go beyond the mind. When Jesus says, he overcame the world, and what I interpret that is he overcame all desire. Desire comes from the mind. It doesn't come from the body. The body doesn't understand. It doesn't, the body, it's the mind. So
Right.
it's the mind. He overcame his mind, pulling him outward, and instead it pulled him inward. And
Yeah.
so I always tell people that this is our practice that can make us stable. Just wherever you are, always ask yourself: is the mind pulling you outward, or you're being able to pull yourself back into the kingdom of heaven, knowing that everything is right here, right now, and that I think those type of teachings help people build strong vessels to receive the light and spread the light. And at this, and so that I think that's the better alternative than to for the
Yeah.
majority of people.
I agree. I think,
Yeah,
yeah, to grow in Christ, to grow in wisdom is the better, definitely the better alternative. And I think you're
yeah,
correct. A lot of them don't grow. They just stay in that same
it's an
spot. And
experience. But like you said, we have to love them and love all people that are
yeah,
doing their thing, and not they're not knowing, not
they don't
judging. No,
they don't know, I mean,
they
it's
don't know.
not like they know better. And I guess when you know better, then you do better. You know better, then you do better, and you have these levels. And it's sad, a lot of the people in Appalachia are stuck right on that level, and they're just stuck there. And that's what I see. And I'm thankful that God gave. But the thing is too, God will give you opportunity to learn and grow. You have to take those opportunities. I took my opportunities, and I'm thankful that. and i
And
and I
you're using it to help others. That's the best it can be.
yeah,
It was
and I
so
want to
great speaking
keep
to you.
having opportunities, and I
We
want to
got to do
keep
this.
learning.
That's it. We got to keep growing
Yeah.
together. We'll have to do this again. I got to take care of putting some
Yeah, go
supper
ahead.
on the
Hey,
table.
next time I want you to play guitar for me, okay?
Oh, should I play a little something for you?
Please. Can you do that real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect.
Let's see if I can get the right angle here. I got my shorts on. You don't mind my shorts?
Well, do you
Let's see
have
if
your
I get a
audio
see if
turned?
I get a
Let me
non-short angle. Here we go.
Okay, let me give you a
With you. They're trying to take back my bullets. They're trying to take back my guns, disrespecting my flag and all of our lost sons. Now I ain't no racist. I got no hatred in my heart. I said freedom of speech and religion and the right to bear arms. But this country that I fought for is trying to put me to shame for loving God and protecting a few sacred things that remain. Well, Oklahoma, no, you don't have to change. Well, Oklahoma, do you think something's got to change? Well, I ain't no white trash, and I ain't born again. Just because I drive a truck doesn't mean I ain't got common sense. We must protect our borders like we lock our houses with a key. I'm all for immigration, but you got to do it legally. For generations, my family worked hard for every penny that we've got. And we don't need to pay the bills for all of those who have not. Oh, Oklahoma, do you think something's got to change? Well, Oklahoma, well, maybe something's got to change. Well, now vote for whoever you want to, and keep an open mind. But lately your mind only seems open for those on your side. Don't let anything divide us on the field or on the streets. Let's learn to love each other and see where we can meet. Well, it's Oklahoma. Well, maybe something's got to change. Well, yes, Oklahoma, I think something's got to change.
Late at your house. So, okay, thank you so much. It's been fantastic.
Let's
visiting
do it
with
again,
you.
all right? You're a beautiful
Yeah.
soul, and it's an
Thank
honor
you.
to meet
You
you.
are
We'll
too.
keep spreading the light together.
Yesterday was Yom Kippur, right?
Yes.
Yeah, happy Yom Kippur.
We're
Yeah.
at the Holy Land. I got my
Holy Land.
sukkah. I built my sukkah here last night. You see, got the sukkah up.
Yeah, look
Sukkot,
at that.
my tabernacle.
The tabernacle. I love that. Okay, well, thank you so much for doing this.
Blessings,
Okay,
blessings.
well,
God bless you.
You too. Bye.